morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you are tuning into this podcast. I'm going to hold on, y'all, 1 minute. All right, so do it again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you are tuning into this podcast. This is Aspects of Authorpreneurship, the show that discusses all aspects of entrepreneurship, whether it be writing, publishing, marketing, networking. Sometimes we talk about some things in between all of that, but that's what we talk about on today's show. And I am your host, international award-winning author, and what am I? Filmmaker, international award-winning author, filmmaker. I had a brain freeze. Empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. I want to just take a moment to welcome everybody. So, regardless of what platform you are tuning in from, whether it be Facebook, whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, or even if you are listening from Wisdom. Hello. Hey, Randy, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, you guys know the rules of protocol. Please feel free to say hello so that way I can speak back. That's number one. Number two, please like and share the video. And then number three, tag somebody that you believe would benefit from tuning in to this broadcast. And so, what we are talking about today is all things literary. Now, if you've tuned in to me before, you know that typically, if we have a fifth week of the month, I normally reserve FAQ day for the fifth week of the month. Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining. But normally I reserve FAQ day for the fifth week of the month. Hey, Lady Rochelle. But today, this will be the last day that I do aspects of entrepreneurship for this month, because of the fact that, y'all, guess what? Christmas is in 8 days. I don't know if anybody else is happy. I love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. Like, holiday season is my favorite time of year. Memorize the five. Hello. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. But today is Lit Day, FAQ Lit Day. So again, normally I reserve this for the fifth week of the month. However, this week is the last week that I will be live. You know, this is part of the Educated and Empowered podcast lineup, where we educate and empower you personally, professionally, politically, socially, and spiritually. And so on Tuesdays, our professional contribution is done via aspects of authorpreneurship. And so, what again, if you have any questions, you guys can start putting them in the comment section. So, regardless as to what platform you are tuning into, please feel free to join in. Okay, so this is y'all that is tuning in. Those of you who are tuning in, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This is the first time I'm getting a request on let's see, Instagram. So let's see what this is like. All right. So I'm gonna carefully and with caution. I think it's Miss we're gonna see. I don't know how to pronounce it, so we're gonna bring her on camera and see what happens with this. I think we're gonna bring her on camera, y'all. So those of you, oh, this Elena. Come on, Elena, you can join me. I'm trying to figure out who you are. Hello, ma'am. Let's see. Okay, you done left. All right, but listen. So those of you who are tuned in, this is feeling like a Friday, even though it's just not Tuesday. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. So as I was saying, be sure to tag somebody again, whether you're watching from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or even listening on Wisdom. Feel free to tag people that may benefit from this broadcast. So anyone you know that has questions in regards to the literary industry. So whether it is writing, publishing, you can throw editing in the midst of that because that counts. Marketing, promoting, that counts. Branding, networking, anything to do with aspects of entrepreneurship, you guys can feel free to ask your questions. You already know I'm going to have my own little spiel, but today is the day that if you have questions, to ask those questions, put them in the comment section and I will address them live. And again, If you've been watching me anytime, you know I don't do no fluffing. So I'm not finna, just because, yes, I am a lit coach, but just because I'm a lit coach, I do not fluff you. I do not give you like a little partial answer and then make it where you have to pay me $9.97 to get the rest of it. Whatever you may have questions about, this is the time to ask those questions. To those who are tuned in wisdom, Michael J, to CEO Boss Key, and to Terry, thank you all so much for tuning in as well. But please know that I'm going to give you 100% of the real deal. So if you have questions, if it's things that you've been wondering, you want to write the book but don't know how, you get stuck, put in those questions. If you've written a book, but maybe you get on the fence about editing and you need some clarification, put it in the chat. If you have questions about publishing, which way you should go, what's the difference between this one or that one or the other one, put those questions there. If you've been stuck on marketing issues, put that in the comment section. Networking, if that's not your strong suit and you need some help strategizing, this legit is your time. So make sure that you guys put those questions in the comment section, because I want to do you, I don't want to do you a disservice. And you guys already know I give you 100% of everything that I have. Why? Because this is my way of showing my gratitude. This is my way of saying thank you very much for tuning in, because I don't take it lightly. It's so much stuff that's going on. Hello, Miss Ellen. It's so much stuff that's going on, so many things that you could be tuned into. And so the fact that you tune in to me, I don't take it lightly. And so that's why I like to make this interactive. Again, I talk all the time. And so if y'all don't mind just listening to me, that's cool. I got my own little spiel. But this is the day that you have the floor to ask whatever questions you have about the literary realm. So feel free to ask them. And right before we jump into them, y'all, I got to do my little clip. So I'll be right back in 30 seconds.
$4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Learn about Bitcoin, Ethereum, too. How to start and what to do. Think of your friends and get them on track. Buy them copies of the paperback. $4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Buy now on Amazon.
All right. And that clip was brought to you by Ms. Deanne Matthews. And so remember, if you all would like your opportunity to be a sponsor for the show, that is definitely possible. You can be a sponsor. Sponsorship rates start for just as little as $100. And so, okay. So one of the things that I want to just kind of start off with, again, I'm not going to have a whole spiel. I'm just going to kind of touch and go on a few different questions, like one question from each category. So the categories typically to do with this, I know. All right, Miss Ellen. Miss Ellen says that she is bouncing and she will be. I love it. I love it. I look forward to connecting with you. And so again, you said yesterday was amazing. Awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. So again, yesterday, guys, I did the Self-Care Act podcast. If you missed it, please go back and check it out. But I want to just kind of go down the line real quick. And again, if you all have questions, make sure you ask those questions, because once I hit the end button, that's it for the free for the day. Then you got to go into doing getting me as the actual coach that I am, and paying for the consultation, paying for the lit coaching sessions. But here, telling y'all, that's the third time trying to let you know. So now you can't say you didn't know. Okay, so let's jump into it, guys. Okay. So many of you are familiar with the literary world, okay? So one of the most frequently asked questions that I get in terms of writing, so we'll start this. I'm gonna address a frequently asked question from each category of writing, publishing, marketing and networking. That's the goal. Now, if y'all insert questions, then the things that I had will go to the side and I'll address you guys first. You all have priority. Okay, so here we go. So, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get with writing or things that I am told is I don't know how to start or I don't know where to start, right? So, I want to write the book, but I don't know where or how to start. And so, one of the things that I typically will suggest, so I'm going to give you two different ways of approaching this. So, this is for the first thing is for the person who has no idea what they want to write about. Okay. So, what I will always do, hey, Michael, thanks for tuning in. So, what I will always suggest if you are wanting to write a book, right? And believe it or not, there are a lot of people who want to write. So, this is actually very common. There are people who want to write, but they just have no idea what they want to write about. They can see themselves as being an author, but they just don't know what it is that they want to write about. So, what I would do is tell you to make a list of things that either A, you are very knowledgeable about. So, in other words, things that you can talk to people about without even thinking twice, right? So, things that people have said, you know, you're really good about this, or you're really knowledgeable about this, or you know what, when I talk to you about whatever this is, you really make it seem very easy, and it sound, you know, I understand it a lot better after talking to you. So, whatever that topic is, that's one thing that should go down. So, if you're trying to figure out what to write about, make a list of topics that you are very knowledgeable about. Make a list of things that you are very passionate about, right? Because again, you don't ever want it, it should not feel like work. Is it actually work to write a book? Absolutely. Is it's a different way to measure the work or to talk about the work. So if it is your own personal work, then it may not be something that you have to do a lot of research for. So it's not hard in that way, but from a mental and emotional standpoint, it can definitively take a toll on you, right? So let's go with the last thing, and then I'm gonna skip over to the other one. So this question is the frequently asked question for writing is, well, what happens when I don't know what to write? I don't know where to start. So if you don't know where to start, number one, make a list of the things that you like to talk about. Okay. So, what are things that you're knowledgeable about? What are things, number two, what are things that you are passionate about? And then here's the third thing. What are things that you yourself are curious about, right? So sometimes there are things that come up in life, maybe at your job, at your church, in your community, on the news, things that you hear about, but when you go to look at it, when you go to research it, you don't really find a lot of information about it, or at least not from the angle that you would talk about it, right? I remember hearing, I'm trying to remember what the issue was. I don't remember, y'all, so do not quote me whether it was autism. I want to say it was autism. There was a mother who ended up writing a book not because she saw herself as being an author, but because her child was, and she was a Black woman, and so her child was autistic. And when she went to the library, when she was trying to research material for dealing with Black children with autism, she said the information that she found was very minimalistic, right? And so the reason why she wrote the book was to become the resource. Have you ever heard people say, be the change you want to see? So a lot of times we feel like, okay, well, everything has been written about, and maybe that is true to an extent. Maybe there are no new quote unquote topics under the sun, but nobody has written about your personal experience with it. And so she ended up penning a title being from that firsthand, having that firsthand experience, right? Because she had the knowledge of what it was like to be a caregiver of a young autistic child. And so again, that's not to say that hers was the only book on the subject, but she helped to become a resource and contribute to a topic that was not widely done, or at least at the time that she did it. So there you have it. And we're going to go to the part B of that question. So part A of, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start. I want to write a book, but I don't know how to start. So I gave you part of, if you don't know at all what you want to write about, A, make a list of all the things that you are very knowledgeable about. Two, make a list of the things that you are passionate about. Three, make a list of things that you yourself are curious about. And the purpose of making those lists is because now it's not really going to be difficult for you to get started, right? So if it's things that you're knowledgeable about, pick the thing that you're most knowledgeable about and then start writing. Hey, Miss Makita, start writing on that. Start writing, so if you know a lot about whatever it may be, you know a lot about politics, you know a lot about community engagement, you know about whatever it is, and if you know a lot about it, start writing. Or if there's something that you're passionate about doing, like if you love, my daughter loves anime, or if you love cooking, start writing about it. Or if there's something that you are curious about, then start writing down the questions that you would like answered. And then that's how you approach that. Now let's go to the other side of the coin for the people that say, I don't know where to start, but you don't know where to start, but you do at least know what you want to write about, right? And most of the time, this is very common when we're talking about people who want to write their own memoirs, their own life story, right? Because it's so much to write about. And so it's like, where in the world do I start? So there are two different ways that you can approach this subject. So if you know, okay, I don't know where to start because it's so much, then start listing the different things that you do know that you want to talk about, right? Because many times what you will find is that there are things that every situation that you may want to write about may not end up being its own chapter. A lot of times you can group content together in the same chapter, right? So, like, let's say when you're thinking about it in your head, maybe it takes up a lot of headspace, but as you actually start writing it out, maybe it only was a page and a half, and maybe you've exhausted all possibilities and you don't have a way of extending that content to become 5 to 10 pages on its own. All right. So now what that means that you can do is just make that a sub chapter. So what are some other things that might be grouped in that same area, whatever, right? So maybe you can kind of name the chapter instead of, let's say you want to talk about, I don't know, you got raped, right? And maybe, or maybe that's what the entire book is about, and you're trying to set it up. And so maybe there was a particular thing that just you thought it was going to be a lot because in your head, when you're thinking about it, it's overwhelming for you. But when you start writing it, it wasn't. Okay, so now maybe this chapter will just be called something that can group. Hey, Alexandria, thanks so much for tuning in. This chapter will be group, it can just, you can call it like yesterday I said life's mishaps, right? So maybe that becomes the name of the chapter, and so you can just write a lot of different mishaps that's under that one chapter. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of one of the ways, if you know what you want to write about but you just don't know where to start, the most important thing, and again, y'all might say, well, what are your credentials, how you gonna say all this or that? I ain't nobody. I just been in the literary world for over a decade, got about 20 books to my credit. I've been recognized on a local, national, and international level, won a couple different awards. So, this is just my word, take it or not, but I'm just letting you know. You can Google me. But so here's the thing, like, if you know what you want to write about, one of the things that I strongly suggest is to create that outline. Start mapping out the different things that you want to write about, right? And sometimes you may not have so this might not even be all one book. You can just, it could just be like a lot of experiences. Like, you know how I said, when you don't know what you want to write about, so you just start writing things you're knowledgeable about. Sometimes it can be, I want to write a book about my life story, and but you got a whole lot of life stories, right? And so you have to figure out, because understand this too, just because you want it to be about your life story, it does not automatically make it be a memoir. Okay. So you have to understand or decide, what angle do I want to use? Do I just want this to be totally biographical? Do I want this to be inspirational? Do I want this to be a self-help? So depending on how you answer that would really determine what type of content you are going to include. Now, I will say this, if you don't know how to do that, then again, that's where I come in as being a coach, as being a consultant. We can have those offline conversations. But if you take advantage of me now while I'm here, throw your questions in there and I'll ask and give you further clarity. But I've already kind of taken 10 minutes on this topic and I need to go to the next topic. But again, so if you know what you want to write about, then start throwing out, write down the different topics. Say, I want to write about my life. What about your life? Right. And so sometimes as you're starting to write out those things, you will notice that all of this can be in the same book. But then sometimes you can see, okay, well, I got stuff over here about what happened with my mom and them when I was growing up, and I got stuff over here about when I was a mama myself. I got stuff over here about my relationship. I got stuff over here about my job. So is there a way to combine everything? Or does all of these things, can these be different books? Can any of these take on lives of their own? Do you have enough content just for this one particular topic where now it becomes its own book, right? So again, and all of that is going to be determined on how you decide to tell your story. So I'll just give you a quick example and I'm gonna move on. So again, my first book that I wrote, which was a national award winning book, is called Pleasing Your Partner, A Spiritual Guide to Happiness. So in this book, I share information. At the point it was released, I had been married for, I think, 11 to 12 years, because I think it's about 10 years ago. I've been married 22 years now. But at the point it was released, it's a little over a decade that I had been married. So this was not a biographical book. This was not me telling you everything about the time of my union, from us dating to the time we got married on December 6, 2001. No, what I did was I extracted some information. I extracted some experiences. I extracted some of those things and I put it as a self-help book. I wrote it out in a way where I'm giving tips to individuals who read this so that it can help to strengthen their relationships. So the content that was used was from my actual life, but this was not just like my life story, meeting my husband or when we were dating. That wasn't that. Because one of the things I will say, and then as I move on, is when you are writing your life story, you have to be careful as to what content that you share, because sometimes we assume, and this is no shade or no, I'm not trying to be like mean in a way, everybody ain't necessarily just interested in your life. So you have to find a way, as the author, you have to find a way to pin the title that makes it interesting, and or find your audience who would be interested in reading about your life. Because I do believe that we all have a story, and I do believe we all have an audience. But I think that what happens is that sometimes we don't take the time to figure out like who's interested in our story. We automatically assume that everybody is interested in our story, and everybody is not interested in your story. Like how I always say, when somebody's asks you the question, who is your product for, the first and main way we know that you didn't do your research is if you say my product is for everybody. No, it's not. Nobody's product is for everybody. Like, you can be the biggest sports fan, and let me tell you, every sport ain't for everybody. You can think you're a big sports fan, but then you soon learn, oh, no, I didn't mean like all sports. Like, I like basketball. And then even if you say I like basketball, you might not even like all basketball. You might not want to watch high school basketball. You might not be a fan of like college sports, and March Madness might not be your cup of tea. And then even if you say you like the NBA, Maybe you like the NBA, but maybe you don't like everybody. So maybe I don't want to watch, Chicago Bulls, because maybe if I'm from California, and then even if you're in California, they got the Lakers, they got the Clippers. That's just in LA. They got Golden State Warriors. They got about 4 teams just in LA. You see what I'm saying? Texas, you got 3 teams. You can be a Spurs fan, a Rockets fan. Who else am I missing? Houston, Dallas, a Mavericks fan. So, you have to determine who your market is. So, yeah, so I'm not telling anybody to feel as though that your story isn't worth it. What I'm saying is know how to work your story. If you determine that you want to write your life story, determine, do I want to write it as a straight biography? And if I decide to write it that way, who will my target audience be? Who is interested in just knowing more about me, right? And so when you answer that, that will also then help you to know exactly what you're going to write about, right? So in other words, if you say I want to write about my life, but I want to write about my life toward young, I want young women to be my audience, or I want homeless women, or I want women who are domestic violence survivors to be my audience. Why is that your target market? So if you say, so again, you're working backwards. So you say, okay, so if you're trying to figure out who your audience is going to be, like, hey, Danette, so now you got to kind of work it backwards to say, all right, if I know that I want to write about my life story, that's great. And I want to actually share my story. So now my next question is, who is my story for? Who is it that the intended audience is? So if the answer is domestic violence survivors, okay, why is that my audience? What is it about my story that's supposed to resonate with them? I am so glad that this is helping you a lot, Alexandria, because that's the whole point. So you say, well, what is it about my story that would resonate with this audience? Now, you see how when you do that, that's going to really help you to streamline how to write it, because the part that's going to resonate with a survivor, I don't want to call them a victim, the part that's going to resonate with a survivor, 9 times out of 10 is kind of what led up to your story, because now I can relate to you and how did you survive it, right? So it might end up being inspirational, but not necessarily self-help. And then you say, well, what's the difference? Because I thought they were one and the same. No, they're not. Typically, inspirational is simply sharing how you overcame, how you made it out, how you made it through. Self-help is giving the tips. This is what you do. So step 1, do blah, blah, blah. 10 ways to overcome 7 ways to overcome domestic violence, 6 ways to be empowered. That's self-help, when I'm giving you tips of how to do blah, blah, blah. So you can still shape your story where you're telling them what to do and then turn it into a self-help. But if you don't give any tips and you're just telling how you overcame, then that becomes inspirational. So B says, can my story or book be fiction? Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things, so I will address that in 2 different ways. What many people are doing nowadays is what's called narrative fiction, which is, okay, I'm going to take the base of what it is that actually happened to me, but then I'm going to fictionalize a little bit. Like, you know how they say change the names to protect the innocent? So like, the story itself could be my story, where I'm saying, okay, well, the main character was born and raised in Chicago, grew up with a sibling. And so maybe instead of saying I grew up with a sister, now the sister becomes a brother. Maybe instead of it being Chicago, it becomes Ohio. Do you see what I'm trying to say? But the storyline, the plot is my story. But then I get a little bit, kind of creative as to all of the different details. So instead of saying I went to Finger High School, maybe I went to, I don't know, Feng Shui High School. So it's an imaginary high school. Maybe instead of, Brian was my best friend, maybe Bobby is my best friend. So do you see what I'm saying? So the storyline and the plot at its core is your story. However, whether it's because you don't feel comfortable enough telling the exact story, whether it's because you were not able to get waivers signed by other people. So what I mean by that is, when you are going to be including somebody else in your book, when you're going to be talking about their life and something that they did, something that can weigh on how they are perceived, then understand they can come back to you. If you didn't talk to them and say, hey, I'm writing about you, can you sign a waiver? You know, you give them a non-disclosure agreement, whatever. So that way it relieves you from any and all liability. So that way ain't nobody finna come back at you. Because it's one thing you have to understand this. I don't care if your book don't sell NAM copy. People's perception is going to change. So it's one thing if we sitting at the lunchroom table and I'm saying whatever about you, because once I leave the lunchroom table, all of that chatter stays in the lunchroom. It's another thing when you finna print up in a book that could last forever, that could be researched on Amazon, where somebody is able to pull this up and then they can read and they can get this perception of me. And so that becomes a whole nother story. And even if you talk to somebody and somebody said, girl, yeah, I don't care, get it in writing. Get it in writing, because that whole mind changes once, if they either think that what you said damages their character, and or they think that you making some money based off of the fact that they a character in your book. People will start feeling like that they are, baby, I was the main character, I know I need some royalties, I need a percentage or something. So get it in writing. So if you're not able to get it in writing, then that's another reason why we activate the narrative fiction. We change a lot of different things. So we change the name. So in my example, instead of Brian, it's Bobby, you know, or maybe instead of Brian, maybe it's Bethany. So that way we don't even think that it's the same person, it's the same thing. But the plot itself, the storyline itself, is what you're drawing from. So yes, be in that way, it can be narrative fiction or just in general. Yeah, you can write a fiction book. You can figure out, because again, like I said in the beginning, for people who may say, I don't know what I want to write, so you would then go under that category, because maybe you don't know what you want to write, but you at least know that you want to be fiction. So fiction just means what? That is fake, that is not real. But not real don't necessarily mean that it got to be cartoonish or, you know, storybook or whatever. It could be narrative fiction, it could be paranormal, it could be romance. Like there are so many subcategories of the fiction genre, but absolutely you come up with whatever you want your story to be. And a lot of characters, like a lot of authors, when they end up into that sci-fi world, what they did was they just made a fictitious like a character from a person, right? So like let's say that a person that they knew had monstrous traits, you know, they were really mean and ugly and nasty. Now, guess what? In the fictitious world, now you become a dragon. You see what I'm trying to say? Now you become a witch. Now you become, so it just depends on where your creativity takes you. So anyway, y'all, for those of you who are just tuning in, today is a lit day. Normally this happens on the 5th week, but because this is holiday time, this is going to be the last aspects of entrepreneurship of 2023. And so I want to interact with you guys and give you all an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. So I just finished asking. So apparently I'm not going to go through all 4 questions because writing took a lot more time than I thought. But when I come back from this small short break, we're going to jump to our editing and publishing frequently asked questions. I'll be right back.
$4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Learn about Bitcoin, Ethereum, too. How to start and what to do. Think of your friends and get them on track. Buy them copies of the paperback. $4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Buy now on Amazon.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in again. If you would like, hey Miss Tracy, if you would like for your ad to run, please feel free to look into becoming a sponsor of the show. There are different sponsorship packages, and our sponsorship packages start for as low as $100. And maybe you don't want an entire package. There are features such as running an ad that you can get a la carte. So make sure that you get in touch with me. You can connect with me to get information about that. All you have to do, if you want to be a sponsor or a guest on the show, then just send an email to Jackson at yahoo.com. Jackson at yahoo.com. And guys, once we get to the new year, there are going to be some different changes in terms of where you will send your emails to, and then we'll probably have new intros and all of that. So I'm really excited about everything that is going on. So do we have any questions, y'all? I want all hearts and minds clear before I switch topics, because what we spent the first piece of the show talking about was writing. So do we have any other questions on writing before I address our frequently asked question that pertains to editing and publishing? Okay, no questions. All hearts and minds are clear. All right. So one of the questions that I get that actually kind of pertains to both editing and publishing is like, what sense of recourse do I have if I'm not satisfied with my editor or the job that was performed by my editor or publisher? Do I have a sense of recourse? The answer is it depends on what deal you made before you got started. Okay, so let's go into it. I love y'all. Let me start there. I love y'all. um Y'all know I give y'all tough love and hard truths, but many times, as a consumer, the burden is on you to make sure that you are okay with your deal before you sign the dotted line. And the fact of the matter is that many times you all are so excited about getting in business with somebody. You're so excited about, the process of it all, that you not only do you not read the fine print, you don't even know what questions to ask. It's like, hey, I'm looking for a publisher, or I'm looking for an editor. I heard you edit. I heard you a publisher. Will you publish my stuff? Will you edit my work? They say, yeah. How much? That's the only question y'all ask. How much? And then if it's in your price range, you give them your coins, and then you out the door. Now, you ain't asked no questions. You ain't vetted them. You don't know whether or not y'all a good fit. You don't know nothing about their work ethic. You don't know nothing other than they were in your budget. And because they were in your budget, that was all that you needed to hear. Shame, shame, and shame again. So one of the things that I've done, and I'm actually working together the same way how I'm putting together certain courses. One of the courses I'm putting together is overcoming your Facebook fears. So there's going to be something on like social media for those of you who understand that if you are looking to be a public figure on any level, not just an author, but any type of entrepreneur, any type of public figure, you do understand the importance of social media. So whether it be Facebook, even though it's called Overcoming Your Facebook Fears, understand that this is an extension to obviously LinkedIn, YouTube, now Instagram, because you can go live from Instagram. So any platform that you can go live from, you have to pick whatever your preferred platform is, but you do need to establish some type of fan base there, and you need to be able to interact. Many public figures are not comfortable with that, or aspiring public figures, aspiring business owners, aspiring authors, entrepreneurs, they are not comfortable with that. And so there is a course that I'm putting together on that. There's also a couple videos that I'm putting together on interview questions, like how to interview your editor, how to interview your publisher, so that you don't get taken, so that you're not angry or frustrated or feel like that they scammed you, right? So just really quickly, we're going to go through that, and so the marketing and networking stuff, y'all, I guess we'll do that part whenever we have another fifth week, another fifth Tuesday, we'll do that. Okay. So has anybody ever had an unpleasant publishing or editing experience? We might just start there. But I'll say this: we'll just act like everybody is new to this, that nobody has ever had an editor or a publisher. Let's start there. So your work is done, maybe. If we're talking about editing, it really just depends on what point you decide to incorporate an editor. I talk about that as well. When is the best time to incorporate an editor is always going to depend on you and your creative flow. It's going to depend on you and your level of experience. But let's just assume work is done, and let's just assume you have a publisher, and that publisher does not include editing services. Now, with my publishing company, APS Publishing, editing is automatically included in certain publishing packages. Okay, and so in either case, every company, that might be the first thing you need to know. Publishing is not an all inclusive thing. There's a difference between publishing and printing. Many people don't know that. There's a difference between the two. Publishing is not an all inclusive service. So just because you're getting somebody to publish your work does not automatically mean that that includes the editing of your work. Also, understand that in some cases, editing can be more costly than publishing. It depends on how good a writer you are. It depends on how many times your stuff needs to be edited. Depends on how many different editors you take your stuff to. And that's the reality. Like, you cannot have, and this is, again, I promise you, this is no shade, but understand, I've been publishing for almost 10 years. Okay. I done published over, I think, about 40 different books that's not my own. And so you got to understand, be honest with yourself, and know where your skill set is as it pertains to writing. Okay, so if you know that writing is not your strong suit, number one, that should tell you that you need to hire an editor. If you know, you know, and I'm not just talking about, because all the people that talk about, well, I got Grammarly. Look at my face. Do I look impressed? Those of y'all who on wisdom, listen to my voice. Do it sound like Grammarly is impressing me? It ain't. I'm going to use Microsoft Word. Can I tell you what Grammarly and Microsoft Word will do? So y'all know words like homophones, you know, words that sound the same but are spelled differently. So like there, and there. Oh yeah, because I'm an editor too. There, and there. So THERE, THEIR, THEY So as long as you spelled it right, that's all they gonna get. They not gonna tell you when you say there are many children here, but you spelled it THEY apostrophe RE or THEIR. They not catching context, y'all. And so many of y'all think that you done really beat the game because, ooh, I'm just gonna get Grammarly. I'm just gonna get Microsoft Word. They only gonna catch it if it's spelled wrong. They not catching it if it's out of context. Okay. So the other thing is, they're not reading your paper, they're examining your paper, right? So what's the difference? So these programs, these softwares, they're set to see, okay, did you properly use punctuation? So was it Alexandria, baby? Let me tell you something. Yours is by far not the only one. You're not the only person. Listen, I was helping my daughter the other day. She's a freshman in college, and she has a bad habit of using sentence fragments. And when I'm telling her, I'm trying to explain to her why this is a fragment, she's like, but it just seems like it should be right. I said, but baby, it's not. I said, you see the red mark that's on your paper? Even your professor saying like it's a red mark because it's not right. But like sentence fragments, maybe Grammarly or Microsoft Word will catch. But understand, they're gonna catch stuff like punctuation issues. So let's say if you didn't put a comma after a word and before the word which, right? So I love shoes which are red, green, and blue, or something like that, right? So anytime you use the word which, before which should be a comma. So they may catch that. Or sometimes, like with the word but, it's not so conjunctions, but, and, or. It is not always that a comma should come before them. There are certain times when you should use a comma, certain times when you shouldn't. So Microsoft Word and Grammarly sometimes will catch it. Not every time, but many times they will catch that. Let's say if you were supposed to use a semicolon, many people forget all about the semicolon. Period, 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 or comma, comma, comma. People have forgotten that there is a such thing as a semicolon, much less what the semicolon is for. So, like, there'll be times where Microsoft Word will catch that. Hey, John, there are certain times when Microsoft Word will catch that and they will insert for you, okay, this should have been a semicolon. Change this to a semicolon. Okay. There are times where maybe you're typing so fast that you forgot to insert your punctuation, and Microsoft Word will catch that. So again, y'all get the point of what I'm saying. So yeah, the software will catch what the software is trained to catch, but the software is not a human. So like if you are writing a story, the software is going to evaluate how well you use punctuation, subject verb agreement. Like they're going to catch those things. How well did you write what's on the paper? But what they not gonna tell you is, girl, I'm gonna use Alexandria. Alexandria, don't mind me using you. Girl, hold on. Because didn't you say in chapter 2 that his name was John? When his name changed to David? Or didn't you say that you was going to give us the 3 top ways to do blah, blah, blah? You only talked about 2. Where's the other one? Or, okay, you know what? You said that your mother moved out when she was 14, but then the next thing you talked about was what happened when she was 22. Why don't you fill in the blanks for that? You understand what I'm saying? So like, and again, understand too that you get what you pay for with editors, because all editors are not created equally. All right. Come on, Miss Ellen. Like all editors are not created equally. So you know how I said, hey, Miss Portia. So you know how I said that when it comes, and I ain't blaming none of y'all that's listening. I ain't saying y'all, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm gonna give y'all some help so what I'm talking about don't become y'all. So a lot of times the reasons why you have issues with your editors and or publishers, a lot of times it's not their fault, y'all. A lot of times it's your fault. It's your fault because you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. You don't know what questions to ask. You are not properly vetting your people. All you care about is whether or not they fix your budget. That's all you think you're supposed to care about until you get your paper back, until you get your manuscript back, until you get the book back. Now you got all these questions from heaven. Now you got all these things and all. But that's what you're supposed to do before you sign contract. First of all, you should be signing the contract. But before you sign the contract, you're supposed to ask your questions. Don't be so caught up in the process and so excited because you got a manuscript and somebody gonna edit it, somebody gonna publish it, that you forget to ask your questions. And y'all, let me tell you this. This is how come, even as a publisher, oh, I have interviews with people. I don't publish everybody that come to me because I've been doing this thing long enough. Like I say, next October will be 10 years. I've been doing this long enough to know that all money ain't good money. And some clients are whole headaches because you are unaware of the process. So most of the time I have a whole interview or 2. Make sure you understand the process. Make sure you understand, because a lot of times I tell them what to ask because I don't want your money that bad. I ain't never chasing nobody's dollars. Let me tell you that I am not doing it. So understand this. You have the responsibility of knowing when you say, I want an editor. What kind of editor do you want, y'all? Do y'all know that there's more than one type of editor? Do you know what each editor does? So, for the sake of time, let's just go through. I'm just going to tell you the types of editors that there are and tell you the kind you're probably going to need. So, copy editor is most comparable to what Microsoft Word does for you, right? They're going to make sure subject line agreement is correct, make sure your stuff is spelled right, no punctuation, all that type of stuff. You got your line editors that's really going to be there to check for consistency's sake. Okay, make sure everything is flowing well on a consistent standpoint. Then you have your developmental editors. Your developmental editors are the ones that's going to fill you in and give you all of the meat that you are missing. Okay, so like I said in that last example, when listen, I'm trying to tell you, I be trying to, I have to, you have to learn how to be led, Portia, in everything that you do, because otherwise you end up making bad deals. And that ain't cool for nobody involved. But the thing about it, so like in that example that I gave y'all, when you had holes in your story, so it was like, okay, you talked about your mother at 14, but then we didn't hear about your mama no more until she was 22. Like, maybe you don't know the reason why you did that is because you didn't know what else you were supposed to talk about. You don't know how to incorporate her. You don't know what experience to talk about. You don't know how to do transitions. First of all, the developmental editor is the one that's going to catch those holes. Because there are times when what happened is y'all will pay a copy editor and then you turn around and get mad because they didn't give you any. They're called either developmental or structural editors, and I am the latter. Like, I do them all, but I typically, like, it's hard for me. Like, if I'm hired as a copy editor, most of the time I don't take copy editing jobs because the way that I'm set up, it's hard for me to read a manuscript and only give your paper back and say, or your manuscript back and say, here, all of the subject verb stuff is fixed. Like, if I read some stuff and there's some holes, my nature is to fix stuff. So my nature is to see that, girl, what you should have did was talked about da, 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 da. Why you there? And that's acting as a developmental editor, helping you to further develop your manuscript, helping you to fill in the holes. Your book, when you started with me, maybe chapter 1 was 2 pages, 3 pages. By the time we got done, it's probably about 6, 7 pages, because we're figuring out together what all you can add in there, what's not in there, what should be in there. And again, you ain't gotta listen to me. And I tell people that all the time. I ain't did nothing but wrote 20 books, and a few of them done been recognized and on different levels, nationally and internationally. You ain't gotta take my advice at all. But let me say this: if you gonna pay somebody, don't it, as my father would say, behoove you to listen to the person that you paying? Like, ain't the point of paying somebody is because at some level you know that they know a little bit more than you do. So even if you say that I'm not going to actually take this advice, don't you need to at least listen to it? Don't that make sense? Like, I remember one of my clients that I worked with a few years ago, like right before pandemic hit. And he and I, we would go back and forth, because he just meant the ideas that he had in his paper he wanted to keep, this chapter, that chapter, whatever. And he was adamant about keeping them. And I'm like, okay. So I'm not saying that you got to get rid of it, but it would be better if you did blah, 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 blah. And sometimes you'll have people that might challenge you because they want to know that you know what you're talking about. So by the time we got to, because I think his book had like 12 chapters. So like chapters 1 and 2, we were like, going back and forth, because I understand, again, being an author and an editor, I've been in your shoes as an author. So I understand this is your baby. But as I've explained it before, you have to understand that when you work with an editor, now it's like the editor is the godparent, right? So the book is the baby. You're the parent, we're the godparent. So number one, you want to make sure that you get an editor that is just as passionate, editor and publisher, because the same rules apply for publisher, that's just as passionate about your baby as you are. Get somebody, work with somebody that see your vision the way that you see it. And then number 3, make sure that you work with somebody that can add value to what you're trying to do. Okay. A lot of times y'all don't interview. How many people don't interview their editor before? A lot of times, y'all ain't interviewing nobody. What you do is you'll ask your friend, like, who did you use? And then they say John. So then you call John. You ain't ask your friend, well, what kind of book did you write? All you know, your friend wrote a book and your friend used John. Now, if your friend wrote a sci-fi book, but you writing a poetry book, John might not even he might not even edit poetry. Like everybody don't edit. All genres are not created equal. It's not, well, since it's a book, then any editor will do. No, because I don't edit all work. Why? Because I don't read all work. Every genre has its own formula. And so if I don't read paranormal, I can't add value to a paranormal manuscript. Like I can be a copy editor for any genre. I can be a line editor for any genre. Why? Because I am great. I'm outstanding at English. So I know subject verb agreement. I know punctuation. I know spelling. I know consistency. So I can read long enough. My attention span is long enough where I know if he was driving a blue sedan in chapter 2, if it's gonna turn to a yellow submarine by chapter 4, I know something is off. So like, yes, most editors can be a copy or line editor for any genre. But in terms of a developmental or structural editor, if you don't read all genres, then you can't add value to all genres because I don't know the formula to all genres. That's just like saying all math is the same. There's a difference between algebra and geometry and trigonometry and calculus. And baby, please don't even talk about accounting because that's not even math, but that's a whole nother subject for another day. Look, Ellen said, don't be so in love with your work that you're willing to have a flip book. Listen, come on. Let me tell you something. I'm just trying to help y'all because I know that too many times people are just so excited about the process that you all don't educate yourself on the things you need to know, the things you need to ask an editor. So, yes, while it is good to get a recommendation or a referral, like do the whole thing, vet the whole process. What kind of book did you have? So, what genre was the book? How long was the book? Because guess what? All editors don't want to. They don't want to edit novels. Everybody don't want a 250-page manuscript to edit that. They just don't. But then you got some people. The only type of stuff that they gonna edit is a novel. So ask them, what kind of book did you have? What genre was the book? How long? Like start. So if you're gonna talk to them, don't just ask them for a name, figure out what their experience was like, right? So then, okay, say you take that name, you go and you start talking to John. Don't just say, hey, John, Kathy said that you had edited her book and you did a good job. So can you edit mine? And then how much it's gonna be? What? Don't do that. John, I got a nonfiction. I know that you edited Kathy's fiction book. Do you edit nonfiction books? Okay, she said that her book was like 213 pages. Mine is only 78. Would you do something like that? Is there a price point? How do you charge, John? Do you charge per hour, per word, or per page? What's your turnaround time? Because I have a deadline for February 2nd. So will you be able to have that not by February 2nd? February 2nd is when it's supposed to be published. So will you be able to have it back to me? Because watch this. Just because John finished editing it don't mean that you done. If John, especially if John is a developmental editor, you don't want to read through what John suggested, what he wrote. You might have to address those issues. So that's the other thing. A lot of times, y'all don't even take into consideration how long the editing process is. You think I wrote the book, somebody else finna edit it. Once they finish scratching out and they make my words right, then now it's ready to go to publishing. Uh-uh. Like if you're a great writer, maybe. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. Not really. Not really. Not really. Like, I don't know many writers where it's a one and done situation. Like, y'all remember the phrase first draft? Anybody know the reason why something is called first? For the exception of first lady, probably because after first is second and third. Like, you don't have to label it if it's the only one. So it's a first draft because it's gonna be followed by a second draft, maybe even a fifth draft. Like it take a minute, okay? But anyway, y'all, because that's a whole nother. Let me look. Let me say, if people listen to the person you ask for help, why not do what she said? This come on. This what I'm saying. Hey, Talina, this is what I'm saying. Like a lot of times you get a expert, but then you don't trust the experts you hire. Why you hire them? If you know more than your experts, so whether they're the editor or the publisher, why you hire them? Why you just didn't do it? If you know it already, if everything they saying is wrong and that ain't right, and I ain't gonna do that, why you hire them? You just had some extra coins you want to donate to my personal account. Thank you. Or when I say personal, I mean my business accounts to me personally. But here's the thing, y'all. So I'm finna wrap it up because I didn't know we already at the hour mark. For those of you who are tuning in, I'm this y'all last time because I'm wrapping on down. Today is the last day for aspects of entrepreneurship for 2023. Normally, I do a FAQ day only on the fifth week of the month. So if it's 5 Tuesdays, then on that fifth Tuesday, I'll do a FAQ day where you can ask whatever your question is. Because aspects of entrepreneurship has four main focus points: writing, publishing, so editing, publishing, so writing, editing, publishing, marketing, and networking. Okay. So every month, 1 week is devoted to each thing. If there's a fifth Tuesday, then what I normally do is do a FAQ day. Let you come ask whatever questions that you want about any of those topics and beyond: branding, promotion, sales, any of that. That's what I do. However, because this is December, next week is Christmas, the week after that is New Year's. I'm taking off the next 2 weeks. When I come back, will be January 8th, and we're gonna have all new everything, y'all. New, probably the way we come on, new introductions, all of that. Like same host, she, me, her. I'm still gonna be here, but it's gonna be new intros. Our contact information will change, but the look will pretty much still be the same. Okay. But the point is, so I decided to make today FAQ day. So if you all have any questions, then feel free to put them in the comment section. Because again, I want to make sure that I honor your questions because you all tuned in. Finna be done because the hour I wasn't even trying to go this long. But I want to make sure that I honor any questions that you have. Okay. So I will finish. I'll wrap this up because you cannot tell it all. So when you have an editor, again, these are videos that I'm working on. So you guys come to New Year, you guys be able to purchase these videos and everything. Whether you're getting an editor or publisher, first of all, if you getting a publisher, make sure that the publisher edits. Do not, capital do and not, do not publish your manuscript without having had it edited professionally. Pookie and Ray Ray ain't enough. Your mama, her best friend, old gym teacher, none of them is enough. Like unless the gym teacher or mama or Ray Ray and Pookie them, unless they got some degrees and this is what they do, then that's fine. But I'm saying just in general, that's that's not what you want. Because a lot of times they're not gonna catch stuff. They're just, that's not what you want. Make sure you understand that it needs to be edited. If you want for people to take you seriously, then invest in yourself professionally. Make it look good. Don't just go to, just because you can publish it without an editor does not mean you should publish it without an editor. You need to interview your editor and your publisher. Do not be so caught up and excited in the process that you forego having basic conversations. How much do you charge? When is the turnaround time? What happens if you don't meet the deadline? Make sure that you are protected. Because again, a lot of times y'all don't ask for that stuff. And certain people, if they're doing business and they just getting started, they don't even know to do that stuff. Like, you should be signing a contract. It's not far-fetched that you have to put down a deposit. These are all things that you have to understand. Okay, I got you. So this is the last thing that I'm going to go into, guys. But I'm going to play my little commercial one more time, and when I come back, I'm going to address Miss Ellen's question on rejection letters. We'll be right back.
$4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seizing the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Learn about Bitcoin, Ethereum, too. How to start and what to do. Think of your friends and get them on track. Buy them copies of the paperback. $4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seizing the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Buy now on Amazon.
Alrighty, guys, you are back. We are back to aspects of authorpreneurship. This is Lit Day FAQs. So, any questions that you have about the literary world, that's what I have been here for. And right before I end, I definitely want to address Miss Ellis. I know, right? It's in your head. You just kind of be bouncing when it's playing. But that is brought to you by Miss Deanne Matthews. So, if you guys have not already gotten her book, please go to Amazon and do so, and you can purchase it now. But Miss Ellen asked me to comment on understanding rejection letters. Okay, so for those of you who are if you are independent authors, like solely independent, meaning that you either are publishing it yourself, so self-publishing, or you are paying a vanity press, a hybrid press, you're paying for them to publish it. You may not know what she's talking about. Okay, so for those of you who go the traditional publishing route, there are two types of rejection letters that you can get. You can get rejection letters from literary agencies, and you can get rejection letters from publishing companies. So let's kind of delve into that. All right. So if you are saying, hey, I don't want to pay for all of this stuff, like, ain't it possible that my stuff can be published and it don't have to come out of my pocket? Like, ain't it a such thing as like, what about that Random House thing? Ain't it like Penguin something? Ain't it like a Simon and Schuster or something like that? Yes. So let me say this. It's a whole live by itself to talk about what it takes to be published traditionally, and the pros and cons. And again, that's some more videos. Like, I got whole courses on this stuff, y'all, that I've been working on behind the scenes. But if you do indeed decide to go the traditional publishing route, and you say, I want to have a Simon and Schuster or Penguin Random House to publish it, right? Because Tennille, I done saw your videos and everything, and I know the pros and cons. But for me personally, I would want to be, I'm ready to put in the work, and I want to be traditionally published. Understand that the first order of business that you then have is to get a literary agent, because no traditional publisher, especially not the top, not the main 4 or 5, they are not accepting unsolicited manuscripts, which means that you can't, just because you know where Penguin Random House is located, or Simon and Schuster, just because you know where they located, you can't just send your manuscript to them. And and nowadays I don't even know if they take the bulk mail. Everything is done electronically. But just say, like, back in the, you can't just send that to them and think that they finna take it and read it. It don't work that way, sweetie. Like, it's a whole process behind it. So the first thing that you have to do is solidify you an agent. So the purpose of the agent is because they're the ones who have the direct connect with the traditional publishing companies. And so you have to interview for them. And just like you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. So you have a particular story that you're telling, you're sending it to all of these different agents, and understand this is a whole process, right? It's not like 1 or 2 people that you send it to and then they just gonna love it. Because sometimes you can send your manuscript to an agent, and remember how I said that you need to know what genre you write, and what, like, a lot of the work is for you to do. You need to know everything about your book. You need to be an expert on your book, so that when people ask you any questions about your book, you have answers for it. So if you know the type of book you have, then you already should know not to be sending a manuscript to every agent. You are not trying to query every single agent, because if this agent only do chapbooks, poetry books, if this this agent only does, nonfiction, then you ain't finna send them a fiction book. So first of all, thank you very much, Portia. I appreciate that. But first of all, understand that you need to know what type of agent that you need, because all agents are not the same. It's not okay, well, I heard this one person name, but what genre do they represent? What type of books do they accept? Because you have to understand, everybody is not always open to submissions all the time either. So first of all, do your homework. Send in, you googling or have you come across your agent, and so you send in your manuscript. Understand that shopping an agent is just as difficult as shopping for a publishing company, because everybody ain't gonna say yes. So you can shop it around, send it around, again, whether it be electronically or physical copy. Agents are different. Some ask for both. So you send it around. It's gonna be some people that tell you, we don't want your manuscript. We don't want it. And you have to already have made up in your mind before you even start this process. Repeat after me. I will not internalize their words. I will not internalize their words. They are rejecting the manuscript. They are not rejecting me. It is not me that's the problem. It's my manuscript that's the problem. Because the issue is that many people cannot take rejection. You cannot be in a world that is subjective, like anything to do with the arts, writing, singing, filmmaking. All of that is subjective. You go in room A, they can love it. Room B, they can hate it. That does not mean that the work itself is problematic. It just means that your stuff ain't for everybody. That's the reason why you're supposed to do the bulk of the homework in advance to find out who your stuff is for. So you send it to somebody that you do believe is for. And they can say, well, unfortunately, at this time, we're just not accepting any manuscripts. Okay. So now your thing is, so am I going to wait until the next time that they are, because I really just want this agent? Or is it going to be, all right, so let me go and ship it to somebody else? Now, many people believe in sending out a lot of them. So like, you just do your homework initially, make you a list of maybe 20 agents, and then just ship them out, let the chips fall where they may, right? So I don't have a personal preference as to which one you do. I think that you have to do what's best for your mental health, because there are some people who can't stand massive rejection. So like that, if you were to make a list of 20, 50, 100 agents and you send it out all at once, some people it would be, mental overload to constantly see no, 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 reject, reject, we don't want it, we don't want it. So if you are not a person with thick skin, and again, this is why you have to know yourself. If you are not a person with thick skin and you cannot handle rejection, it might not be the best thing for you to send out a whole lot of letters at once. You might be better suited and booted to you might be a better person to just be sending out, like, understand. Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on. So you might be the person, understand that how the process works. So if you're looking for an agent, then understand that it's going to take time. Because even once if we speak into your life, you look for the agent, and maybe it took you 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, a year. It does take a lot of time to find the agent, because understand again, this agent is an extension of you. So you don't want to just, again, just like I said about the editor and the publisher, you don't want to just be so happy that somebody finally said yes, that you don't take the proper time to vet them. Are they going to be good for you? Or are they a shark? Are they a scammer? Do they actually like your manuscript? Do they actually believe in it? Or are they going to just like shop, and then they see that you're green, and so they're going to take advantage of you? Like, make sure that you stay mellow enough, stay logical enough. Like, scream when you get off the phone, but when you on the phone with them, have your questions ready to ask them, right? But do understand, again, whether it is an agent or a publisher, just because you desire to work with them does not mean that they're going to desire to work with you. And that is okay. It just means that your work is not for them. And you rather know now than later. So you have to know from the beginning, how committed am I going to be to this process? Like, how long am I going to invest? How much time am I going to invest to get an agent? I have a lot of friends who are traditionally published who waited years between, getting the agent, and the agent then actually being able to successfully shop their manuscript. Because again, understand that just because you get an agent is not a publishing deal. An agent is step one. So now I got the agent. Now the agent can start shopping my manuscript, right? And then you have to understand how publishing companies work, especially if you're talking about like the big three, four. Like, and the reason why I say four, y'all used to be five, but then Penguin and Random House merged. So, but when you're talking about like the top ones, they only accept like, I think it's like 12 manuscripts a year. A year. Only 12. It's 365 days in a year and they only accept 12. So that's how come you need to also understand how all of the other companies work as well. Like, be open to more than just the top, the big publishing houses, that we, as we call them. Like, there are other traditional publishing companies that's not the top five, but then that also means that they're not going to be paying the same, the advances won't be the same, the amount of work that you have to put in will probably be more. So the smaller the house is that you publish with, the more work that you're going to have to do on your end, right? You're always going to have to do some level of work, but it's just about how much. The bigger the house, the more that they're probably going to pay you, depending on how much they like your manuscript, how marketable they feel it to be. But I'm gonna end it here, y'all. And maybe that's what I'll pick up in 2024. Y'all, can you believe I'm saying that? In 2024, like in 2 weeks, it's 2024. But understand that rejection is a huge part of this game. You can be rejected by agents, by editors, by publishers, and watch this, by readers. Everybody ain't gonna want your book. You think that, okay, well, I'm gonna go to Black Women's Expo, or Indiana Expo, Ultimate Women's Expo, or any of these huge events. I'm gonna go, and because it's gonna be thousands of people, that means I'm gonna make thousands of dollars. That's only true if you find a way to connect with them, right? So as long as you're able to connect with them, then they may support you regardless of whether or not they like your book. But if you don't connect with them, then you just another author. So you got to figure out how to push yourself. But y'all, that's it for real. Come on. Come on. But that's today. I know that this has been a longer session than normal, but it was a great one, and it's the last one of 2023. So again, remember, if you do want to become a sponsor of the show, you will be able to become a sponsor. Packages start just as little as $100, but then you may be like Deanne. And Deanne, you know what? I'm so glad that you are actually on here, although you are joining us from YouTube. But I have been showing your commercial, and Miss Ellen is loving the jingle. And so I want to play that jingle one more time, and then I'm going to end with showing you guys the publishing packages that you can get, so that come 2024, you can be a sponsor of Aspects of Authorpreneurship. We'll be back.
$4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Learn about Bitcoin, Ethereum, too. How to start and what to do. Think of your friends and get them on track. Buy them copies of the paperback. $4.99 for your Kindle mind. $9.99 paperback on time. Seeds in the crypto bull run, y'all. Holiday price, come one, come all. Buy now on Amazon.
All right, so we absolutely love that commercial, and so Deanne has been one of the sponsors for this month, guys. But again, I want to thank everybody who took the time to listen. Instagram timed out about 20 minutes ago because you can only do an hour on Instagram. But to all of those who listened on Wisdom, thank you guys. For everyone who tuned in, whether Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you all so much. And again, if you are not already following me, please feel free to do so. You can follow me across all of those platforms that I named: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Clubhouse, Wisdom, TikTok. You can find and follow me at my name is Tanio. And again, if you would like for me to promote your business, your brand, your product, your service, then make sure that you connect with me and become a sponsor. Rates are very affordable. But thank you all. This was a great show. And I hope that you will either, because we got a couple quick announcements. Number one, for all of my women that are in Chicago, Wife and Wisdom, we are having our meetup. Our in-person meetup is happening tonight. So if you are a part of Wife and Wisdom, if you're not a part, you can go to the Facebook group and get all the information there. But if you are in Chicago and you would like to come to one of our meetups, be sure to join us tonight at 8 p.m. If you want more information, then hit me in the inbox. And also, I don't have the announcement for it, but tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be a guest on Joyce A. Graham's Grief Recovery Prayer Line, talking about coping with grief during the holiday season. And so definitely tune in for that. But tomorrow, I'll be coming back with It's Not Politics, It's Principles. Although we are done with the ease of the Green Party, y'all, the name of the show is still It's Not Politics, It's Principles. And I'll be discussing one of the many principles of the Green Party. So I got a few more shows before we are officially done, but every day of the week it is all new at 2. So if you are not already following me, guys, please do so, whether on any of those platforms you can find and follow me, and make sure that you hit that you're following me, so that way you are notified. Make sure so you are notified wherever it is that I go live. But just in case I don't see you guys at all anymore, have a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Oh, yeah, y'all, your girl is running for commissioner, MWRD commissioner again, and I have officially made the ballot. So we'll be having some more political talk tomorrow, and you'll hear a lot more in 2024. Thank you all so much. And until next time, you all stay inspired.